Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a topic that's been circulating in the South Florida area. For y'all who don't know, it may not have hit your city, it may not have hit your state, but it sure is a topic here in the South Florida area. Now, I'm going to do my hold on one second. I'm gonna do a thing. Now, if you haven't heard, um, during the week of Juneteenth, a young lady by the name of Tonia Miller, if I don't know if I'm saying it right, Tony Miller or Tonia Miller, visited Miami, Florida to celebrate Juneteenth. And on one of the days, and let me get this right, on June 18th, which is also Juneteenth, her body was found hanging from a tree at a park in Miami named Gwen Cherry Park. Remember, I did an episode about Gwen Cherry Park a while back. Go check out my hotspots in South Florida, and you can see the episode that I did of Gwen Cherry Park. And her body was found hanging from a tree. Now, at the time when it first hit social media, it was said that she called. It was said in. First of all, it was said that she had called the police prior to being hanged from a tree, and the police was looking for her, but she called from a different location. That is a different location. She didn't call from the park. So when the police went looking for her, they couldn't find her from what was said. But somebody in the park early one morning was walking through the park, and they saw a body hanging from the tree. Now, in reality, when you see something hanging from the tree, most of the time you're gonna think maybe it's a tree branch or it's like a shirt or something, because people like to be leaving things hanging from a tree. You never thought it was an actual full body. So when they did, they ended up calling the police. Now, when it hit social media, a lot of people was like, "This is not real," because I didn't see no police report, I didn't see it on the news, I didn't, there isn't the reports and stuff like that. And then there was some people that saying, "My neighbor or my friend is a police officer, and they didn't get no reports and all that." And I was like, "Are they seriously gonna do this?" This is a dead body that was found. Now, I've seen a 4-second video that somebody recorded of the woman hanging from the tree. Now, the video you don't actually get to see up close, but you see close enough to see what there is a hanging body. Because if you look at the video, if anybody of y'all have seen the video, she was actually hanging from the tree. And I was like, these people don't realize. And then I was saying to Melina, and I was telling a lot of people on social media, every crime that happens does not hit the airwaves. Every crime that hits, that happens, whether it happens in your own backyard, whether it happens in another city or state, it doesn't get to the news. Down here, we have Channel 7, Channel 10, Channel 6, Channel 4. We have these other news platforms. And a lot of people felt like, "Oh, I didn't see it on the news." Not all the news hit these platforms. I remember, I don't know if I ever told y'all how I was robbed coming home from work one night at it was New Year. It was not New Year's. It was Memorial Weekend, and it was actually Memorial Day. And I was getting off a public transportation bus, and I was walking home, and it was a couple of people that got off the bus and they was walking. And as I turned the corner, they go to my place of residency. Two guys on a bike came, and they pulled up on me with guns, and they robbed me. They took my computer. They took some money from me. I had a computer in a book bag. They took all of that. I called the police and did a police report. The police only rolled up 5 blocks west of where I stay at, and then rolled back looking to see if they was going to see the suspect. And I'm like, these people is not going to be sitting on the curb with a book bag counting money and having and looking through a computer. Even though the computer had a lock on it, I'm quite sure there are ways where you can unlock a computer now these days. You can hack into a computer. But I'm like, this is not something that, and then it never reached the news. And look how many people, I know some of y'all, if you ever been a victim of violence or a victim of crime or a victim of anything, and it didn't hit the news. So when people started talking about, oh, this didn't hit the news, or I got a neighbor that's a police officer and they didn't get a report, not everything hits the airwaves. And then I was telling a lot of people, this is still an active investigation, and most of the time, the reason why a lot of these criminal cases or these violent cases or these incidents get to social media is because the police wants answers from the community. You see a lot of people, they be posting a missing person on Facebook, or they post somebody got hit by a car and it was a hit and run, and a lot of these posts go viral because they're looking for answers. A killer that raped a woman on South Beach, and they look at, just hypothetically speaking, an example. A killer raped a woman on South Beach. Now they're looking for answers, and they take to social media, because a lot of people on social media, you could be one of them people that could have been walking down the street when the lady got raped, and you be like, oh, this hit social media? I was there. Let me call the police. A lot of these cases go to social media because social media now is the best way to get the word across about not only awareness to your surroundings, but also answers to these cases. Because now a lot of, at first a lot of people's like, this is not real, this is fake news, and this and that. And I was looking at these comments and a lot of people, and I'm like, y'all don't realize that a lot of these incidents and a lot of these criminal cases and a lot of these violent cases do not hit the news airway. It eventually hit the news airway because one of the news personnel for NBC6 here in South Florida did a video about the thing, and there were several other people that is not in South Florida that did social media videos and posts about it. And then the family actually came down to Glen Cherry Park, and they held a press conference at the park about her incident because they want to find answers. Because as of now, if y'all been watching and been keeping up on it, the police is ruling it as a suicide because the woman was found hung from a tree. Nearby, like feet away and not too far, they found, I believe, his shoes, and they found her purse with everything in it. It was like nothing was missing. So for them, they're making it seem like, okay, so since all of her belongings is with her, this don't look like an act of foul play. This just look like she hung herself and she committed suicide. But there are people like the family that are still want answers. Because I say, just because you found her belongings with her, that doesn't necessarily rule out foul play and that she committed suicide. It could have been an angry boyfriend that was with her. Because there was speculations that somebody came down here with her to celebrate Juneteenth. And and it could have been somebody that knew her, or she met somebody and they didn't like her, or it could have been a stone cold killer that just wanted to kill people for sport. Remember the Ted Bundy situation, where he, was meeting up with women and just killing them and stuff like that, and Jeffrey Dahmer and all these other things like that. So you got to realize it's not, because her belongings is there. That's just like finding somebody's ID and stuff like that or whatever, and then they're dead, and then you're like, oh, this person, they committed suicide. No, it could have been a psycho, path, or it could have been somebody that is kind of, got mental issues and they went and killed somebody. Remember years ago when, I believe it was a football player who ate the homeless man, was eating was cannibalism, a homeless person on the expressway and things like that. It's a lot of things that's happening. And when they do this, and this is the thing I want to talk about with this. You people, I'm not saying that you in general, but people on social media, they feel like if it doesn't hit the news with these criminal minds or criminal acts of violence, it's not true. And I want to say that is a bunch of bull crap, because just because you don't see it on your local news stations but you see it on social media, that doesn't mean it's not true. Miami-Dade Police Department did put out a statement, and the statement did read that this was an act of that they ruled this out as a suicide, But the family, I like all families, they want answers because they're gonna feel like this is not an act of suicide. But to me, it could have been an act of suicide because number one, it could have been an act of suicide, and it could have been an act of homicide, and I'm gonna tell you why. Suicide, it could have been an act because we don't know what this woman's state of mind was. We don't know if she had mental issues, medical issues, or whatever. She could have been diagnosed with a disease. Not saying that she was, but she could have been diagnosed, like, you know how some people, they go to a hospital, oh, you're diagnosed with cancer, and then they start crying and say, I don't want to, just like, remember the movie Last Holiday when Queen Latifah thought that she only had like a couple of days and weeks to live, and then she started cashing in all her money and started living life and vacationing and all that and doing all this stuff because she thought she was going to die. A lot of these people, oh, excuse me, a lot of these people, they feel as if, you know, hey, I've been diagnosed with cancer. I only got 3 months to live. Why live out my 3 months? I'm going to kill myself now. There was an episode about this in the Heat of the Night, one of my favorite episodes, when there was an episode where this man and this older man and lady who owned a bookstore, she had cancer, and the woman killed herself because she didn't want to do it. The husband didn't want her to kill herself. But she killed herself by shooting a gun her because she couldn't take, they went to Mexico to a cancer treatment facility, and they tried to do all they can, and the cancer wasn't getting better, so she wanted to kill herself and say, I'm done with this. So a lot of these things, you don't know that it could have been where it could have been an act of, she probably had a mental issue or medical condition that drove her to the state of mind of hanging herself. But I also believe that it could have been a homicide. Like they say, there was somebody that came down with her to celebrate Juneteenth, and it could have been the person that was mad with her, or they had gotten into an argument, and they killed her. And I was thinking at first, like, did she get killed at the park, or did they kill her and took her to the park and hung her to make it seem like it was a suicide? There's a lot of factors behind this, but the thing that gets me is that social media is willing to call this like a fake thing. This never happened. It's not on the news. It never did. And I'm sitting here in the back of my mind, and a lot of people, and I was like, you know what? Y'all don't want to believe nothing that people say. Now, I know social media, they do have these things because they try to kill off a lot of these celebrities and actors that is alive and well. Because, I know you've seen it so many times where they'll say, they'll say, just hypothetically speaking, they'll say Denzel Washington has died. Or they'll say Brandy has slipped into a coma. Or they'll say, something about a celebrity, passing away, and then you'll be like, I just seen this celebrity yesterday on TV and stuff like that, or I just seen this celebrity on social media. It was a post. His name is Palmer Williams Jr. He is an actor who is best known for playing in the Madea plays, and you've seen him on House of Pain, on House of Pain as well. And of course, Love Thy Neighbor and things like that. So there was a post going around stating that he had passed away and died. He had to take to social media and said, I am not dead, and he was like, I'm alive and well. And I'm like, yeah, because social media is ready to kill off a lot of these actors when they live in healthy lives. They're probably more healthier than the regular person, because they get all these medical treatments and everything, and they have the money and insurance and all that. And I'm like, yeah, y'all ready to kill off these people, and they not even dead yet. So I get that, but at the same time, this is not a celebrity. This is a regular person that ended up getting hung at a park, whether if it was suicide or homicide. But it's not fake. I didn't hear this. There is no police report or whatever. You realize when an investigation is fresh, there's not going to be too much public eye. You know how they say when there's an investigation and they doing an investigation and they always say on the news, the police is not identifying the person or revealing the person's name and stuff because there's an ongoing investigation. Just like we didn't know who the person's name was when she first got home. They just said a lady and, came to visit Miami to celebrate Juneteenth, and she got hung at a park in Miami, you know, and because when I first was heard about it, a friend of mine told me about it. I took to search, and it wasn't in the search engines because it was a fresh thing. Because it was a day after the next day when a friend of mine told me about it, and I googled Charles Hadley Park, not Charles Hadley. I'm sorry. I googled Gwen Cherry Park. I googled a lot of stuff, and I was looking for it. It wasn't in the eye. Now you Google Gwen Cherry Park, you're gonna see it's a lot of stuff that's circulating. Because remember, a while back, Gwen Cherry Park was in the hot seat when an 18-year-old boy took a 11-year-old girl inside the recreational bathroom and tried to rape her. And it was said that I believe that he had mental issues, but and then that's what I was looking at. They was talking about that story, how the little boy had her in the bathroom. Now now there's the story about Tonea Miller, and I say, because now it done got more viral to where now the family is getting involved and they want to know answers. And I look at this, I say, social media is ready to jump the gun with a lot of this. They think like 90% of the news that they put on social media is fake. No, I say 20 to 30% of the news they put on social media is fake. Because why would you want to put on social media about a lady hanging herself in the park, which there is a video circulating, and then later on the police, because that's why they say, and they've been saying this all over, they say there are mixed views about the woman hanging herself and going Cherry. And there are mixed views because some people say it's not fake. There's people that saying it's true. I believe it's true. I'm not gonna believe that it's not fake, because I don't want, even if there wasn't a video, you got the family coming to the park, trying to find answers. You got people doing videos inside of the park. So you got to understand, this is not fake news. Yeah, there are fake news where you say this person is in a coma or this person has died and stuff, and in reality, they are up in Walmart somewhere shopping as they news are hitting social media. Remember I told you about Palmer Williams Jr. So I look at it as if, and I want to know, are y'all one of them people that think that majority of the news is fake? Because I don't think majority of this news, like a lot of these news stories that they come, because remember what I said earlier in the show, a lot of these crimes and violent crimes hit social media is because people are trying to get answers. You could have been a witness to a crime that happened down the street and nobody has answers, but as soon as you go to the because number one, who's to say that somebody knew who Tonea Miller was? Like she may have a friend that lives in Miami, or she may have a relative that live in Miami. So the fact that when it hits social media, they'll be like, I know, because you know how some people, when they see somebody they knew from high school and they got killed, because how many times you haven't seen a person since high school, and then you haven't seen a person in 10 years that you haven't seen that was your high school classmate, and then all of a sudden you see Mr. John Johnson has died, and I'm like, and you'll be like, I went to high school with him and he died, and then it sparks a lot of things like that, or you could say, oh, Mr. John Johnson is there. I was like, oh, that's my friend, I just saw him yesterday, and stuff like that. Or you see somebody that you was like, I just saw her walking down the street, I didn't know minutes, because some people tell you this happened minutes after I passed this person, because I was just over there, and that didn't happen to me before. Well, I done been somewhere, and then I'll be like, I was just at that store, and afterwards somebody came in there and robbed the store, or I was just in that place, and then as you know, it went up in flames. And a lot of this stuff is true, but a lot of people feel like this ain't true because I don't see a police report. It don't necessarily have to have a police report right away. It's because the fact that a lot of these situations that happen doesn't happen, and not fake, and you don't get a police report right away because a lot of investigations that police do doesn't reach the news right away, because a lot of these crimes that happen don't reach news. Most crimes happen when most of the crimes that reach the news is because it's a serious situation, like if a girl getting raped on her way to school, or a guy tried to kidnap somebody, or a teacher having sex with a kid in school. Those are issues that is going to hit the news. There was a hit and run where somebody hit a person in a wheelchair and they kept going, or somebody shot somebody in broad daylight, or a lady got raped down the street from my house. Those are the things that's going to hit the news. This didn't hit the news because it didn't draw attention of a lot of news stations, but it did draw attention from one news lady at Channel 6, and I forgot her name, but I applaud her for carrying the story, because a lot of these crimes, hidden crimes and hidden violences, do not hit the airwaves and do not hit the news, because a lot of it, number one, it's still an investigation, and number two, it might be something that was caught days later, you know, because who's to say how long that lady's been hanging there from a tree? Because remember, she was hanging from a tree in an area that was roped off and not used by the park. If you've ever been to Gwen Cherry Park, and if you go back and look at my videos, there are sections of Gwen Cherry Park that is roped off due to it is not used by the park. And I believe it was in the old baseball field area, because the Gwen Cherry Park does have a baseball field area, but they doesn't use the baseball field area because it's roped off. Because many years ago, around the time of COVID, they was doing construction inside of the park, and a lot of the park area was roped off. And when they finished doing construction, well, they're back doing construction now, because they're building pavilions near the new football field area, because the back end of the park used to be the football field area. Go back to my hotspots in South Florida and look up Gwen Cherry Park, or I think it's History in South Florida, and you can see I did a video about it. The football field used to be in the back area next to the baseball field, and the old football field area is just a field that keeps growing and growing, and in that area, that's where they found the lady's body hanging. So a lot of people don't utilize that area, but there are certain areas of the park that people walk through, because there is an elementary school that is south of Gwen Cherry Park that kids from other areas, they walk across the railroad tracks, or they walk from certain areas to get from point A to point B. So I'm guessing that's what happened when this person, they was walking through the park to get from point A to point B, and they saw something hanging from the tree, and they didn't know if it was a human being or whatever, and then they found out it was a lady dangling from the tree. Now, this point is how long she's been hanging from there, and I think that's another question that they're trying to figure out. You know, because she had to hang herself doing at night when nobody was around, because anybody could have saw her in the daytime. Like right now it's daytime. I can go to a park and you can see pretty much what goes on in the park in the daytime. So at nighttime, mostly 99% of all parks are closed, and most of the parks here in Miami-Dade County, they close at 10 o'clock. So it had to happen between the hours of 10 and maybe 5, 6, 7 in the morning, because the parks open up at 7 in the morning. But you know, there are some people that get there before 7, because I've been in parks where they have exercise, and like the exercisers come out at like 5, 6 in the morning to do their morning exercises, and then they go back home and get ready to go to work. You know, they do their little power walks, they jog in, and they do their little exercises. So a lot of things like that. So my thing is, it had to happen overnight to where nobody could see her and see her hang herself, because somebody would have saw her in the daylight hanging herself. But it was the thing about people did not want to believe that it happened. Oh, it's fake, it's no news, it's bad news. But I'm like, you can't think that about this, because at the end of the day, we don't know the whole truth behind it. We don't even know if it's a homicide or a suicide. But the police, even though the police is ruling it out as a suicide, it could have been a homicide. Because in my thing, a guy or whoever it was, it could have been a female, a person, could have probably attacked her, took her to the park, and hung her body to make it look like a suicide, so they can get off scotch-free and they don't get caught with the crime. Because you know, there's a lot of these crimes that go unsolved to where, you know, they rule it out as a suicide, or they rule it out as something, and they get unsolved because they're like, oh, this is a suicide, they hung themselves. Oh, this is a suicide, they found the gun next to this person and they killed themselves. And there's been several TV shows that have do that, where somebody had killed a person, put the gun in their hand, and make it seem like it was a suicide. But then at the same time, there's several episodes of my favorite cop show, In the Heat of the Night, that does that same thing. And a lot of times they're ruling out, oh, they had a gun in their hand, so they killed themselves, it's a suicide. In reality, a person could have killed them put the gun in their hand and ran away to the point where they killed them, but they're getting off scotch-free because now the police is ruling this out as a murder unless you have evidence to prove that it's a homicide. And that's what the police is winging out. They feel like, oh, her shoes was right here and her purse is right here with her ID and everything in it, so she just hung herself, suicide. But it could have been somebody out there that probably they either was in the park and they hung her, or they could have, remember I said earlier in the show, they said that she called the police and she said somebody was chasing her and the police was looking for her and they couldn't find her in the area that she was. And then maybe the person who was chasing her probably did something to her. They probably knocked her out or something like that, and then took her to the park and hung her body on the tree to make it seem like suicide. We don't know. The thing about this is we have to stop with these not believing social media, not believing these crimes, because people are out here thinking that this is not real, this is fake, I didn't hear this. And we have to stop that, because you don't know what is going on out there in society. Right now, there's a crime happening somewhere in the United States where a person getting robbed, a person getting shot at, a person got beat up, whatever. Because there's a crime happening every couple of seconds, especially here in South Florida. You have billions and billions of Americans. You can't tell me that there's a crime going on in California. You can't tell me that there's a crime going on in New York, or there's a crime going on in Texas, or there's a crime in Idaho or Pennsylvania or Maine and all of these, and the Carolinas, the Dakotas, Washington. There's crimes happening every day, and every minute something is happening, whether somebody getting beat up or something like that, even in schools. So and then y'all say, oh, this is not fake, this is not real, this is fake. No, you gotta realize this is real. And then y'all don't want to believe it, because I've seen a lot of people, man, this is real, everybody just faking, this ain't never happened. People just want y'all to believe it happened. No. You got to do your inside research with a lot of these things, because just because a crime can happen right now, but it don't have to reach the surface till like 3 or 4 days later, because a lot of times when the crime happens right now, the police does not issue out any statements, they don't issue out any reports, and they don't issue out any social media posts, because they're still doing an investigation. Sometimes when it hit the news, remember, a lot of crimes that hit the news, the police will tell you, the newspaper will tell you, the police haven't released any names of the victims yet, because this is still an active investigation. You know why? Because they haven't even put it out on their social media posts. They haven't even put it out, any reports, because they're still doing the active investigation. And then people will sit up here and say, this is fake, this is not fake. You got to let the police do their job, and then when they get ready, they'll pull out this information and say, okay, this is the person, Tonea Miller, she hung herself from a park. And I'm like, look how much social media took to this. And then the family was there to take answers, because there was a live conference at the park, and I've seen it on social media, to where y'all need to stop with this. This is not fake. So here's my thing is, do you all believe that most criminal posts and criminal accidents that get posted on social media, how real do you think these posts are? The only thing that I don't think that is not real is when they kill off celebrities before they even pass away. When you be saying, this celebrity died, that celebrity died, and then they walking around healthy as a dog. That's the only thing I don't believe. But when you tell me that somebody had killed themselves, or somebody, I'm going to believe it until proven otherwise, because nobody would post this like this and say, oh, they this person died and they haven't died. So stop with these negative of, this is not real news, this is not, because you don't see it on your local news stations, because you don't see a police report on it. The police don't have to put out a report until days later. If the crime happened right now, let's say it's 12 o'clock noon and there's a crime happening, the police ain't gotta automatically put out that report. They can put out that report tomorrow, or the day after next, or 3 days from now. So their report don't have to come out till 3 days later, because it's still an ongoing active investigation. And if they put out that report, that mainly mean that they're trying to get they're trying to get information, because a lot of these cases, they don't get a report out to the public yet, because they don't want the public to know just yet because they're still in active investigation. But let me know what you feel about this. Email me roundtable305@yahoo.com. You can also comment at the bottom of this page. Rest in peace, Tonea Miller. I hope that you are now in a better place. My condolences to her family and to friends of the family and to everybody who knew her. And all I can say is please stay safe out here, because regardless of what happened, we don't know what happened, but we need to stay safe out here because it is hard, whether she committed suicide or whether it's homicide. Let me know what you think about this story. If you've heard about this story, or do you have any views of this story in today's episode, comment at the bottom of this page. Email me roundtable305@yahoo.com. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated, and of course, I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.